But it start with yourself, that's called self-love. But it start with yourself, that's called self-love. It's called self-love.
What's going on? So we back with another video. Today's video gonna be a little bit more personal. Okay, we're gonna talk about being gentle with yourself. So this is a very important topic, right? Because we all want to be respected, right? We all want to be appreciated. We all want to be loved, right? But sometimes we move so fast in life, we don't really take time to think about what goes into allowing us to be respected from the people that we respect, right? The people whose opinion we care about, our family members, our friends, our peers, our co-workers, right? We all want to be respected and want to be treated with love, right? But if we disrespect ourselves and we mistreat our own selves, people will notice that and observe that, and people will repeat what they see you doing to yourself, to you, right? So we must take better care of ourselves. And when we talk about repeating patterns and repeating behavior, right? A lot of times, people will treat us according to how they see us treating ourselves, right? And on the other spectrum, a lot of times we will treat ourselves according to how people treat us, right? So it goes both ways, right? And referring to the latter, right? Referring to people treating us a certain way and then us repeating that. This is a huge problem, right? Because if you grew up in a toxic environment, or you grew up around certain people who didn't look at you a certain way or didn't respect you, right? And they talk down to you, or they get frustrated and yell or call you names or insult you, right? This will weigh on you after a period of time. No matter how strong you are, no matter how confident you are, any person will be broken down in due time if they're repeatedly badgered and insulted and spoken down to from a condescending tone, right? It's upsetting because we want to be respected, we want to be appreciated, we want to be loved. So if you grew up in a household where, let's say, you had parents who were very aggressive, right? You know, especially in the black community, right? Because a lot of times we undermine mental health, right? And we underestimate the power of it and the power of words, right? So when people say things to you like, oh, you're stupid, or you're dumb, or you're ugly, or you never get it right. Somebody telling you never get it right, what do you think you're going to begin to do? You think you're going to begin to get it right? Absolutely not. You're going to keep making mistakes, and you're going to go back looking like, did I get it right? Right? But you don't have that confidence being built up efficiently because someone is always tearing it down, telling you what you're not, telling you what you're doing wrong, right? And this weighs on us, right? And it's this quote that basically says, no matter how poorly people treat you, just make sure it's not you, right? No matter how poorly people treat you, just make sure it's not you. Meaning, make sure it's not you as the one who is treating self poorly, right? Because if a person is constantly talking down on me and speaking to me in this insulting and condescending tone, and then when I'm on my own, I'm speaking to myself in that same way, what's the reason? What's the reason that I would speak down on myself? What's the reason that I would be harmful towards myself, or I would be cruel to myself? It's not because I realize that this is a good thing to do, because it isn't, right? It's because a lot of times we repeat the things that we hold into our subconscious mind. We repeat these things to ourselves later when we're on our own, unconsciously. We don't even mean to do it. That's the craziest part about it. We don't even mean to do it. A lot of times we don't even realize we're doing it, right? I have a friend, and we were speaking the other day, and he's being so harsh on himself, right? Saying what he should do, why he feel this way, why people don't see him this way, what's going wrong in his life, this and that. And I'm like, bro, you being so harsh on yourself. And he was like, damn, I didn't even realize. That's crazy, you know? He genuinely didn't even recognize that he was being so harsh on himself. It's because the people around him who he's dealing with is speaking to him in these type of manner, in this type of manner, in these type of ways. And it's weighing on him so much. And this is all he's around and all he's experiencing and enduring. So he ends up repeating these things to himself unconsciously. So we must be careful. The next thing is, we gotta slow down with life, right? A lot of times we moving so fast, like life is just coming at us so fast. And I'm talking about from a daily routine, like people waking up, boom, we checking our phones off the rip. It's a no-no, right? What time do we give ourselves to prepare for the day? What time do we even take to pour into ourselves? Or did we take to pour into our spirituality? Did we give God thanks for the day? Did we pray? Right? We move so fast. A lot of times we just get our food and start eating. Did we even pray over our food? Did we even take time to appreciate it for the nourishment of our bodies? Right? We just going so fast in life, going to work, going to pick the kids up, going to drop them off, going to do this, going to do that. Right? It's like the day is controlling us rather than us controlling the day. Right? So we must take time to pour into ourselves in any which way. It is various ways of pouring into yourself. Right? It is all types of self-care. Right? Working out, how you eat, self-respect, right? How you talk to people, how you talk to yourself, right? Journaling, writing, thinking about your emotions, right? Reflecting throughout the day, reflecting on what you're doing, game planning, cleaning, taking care of your space, gratitude, being appreciative of each and every moment, taking the time to think, reflect, and just moving forward with love, right? When you move forward with grace and love, you will be so much more efficient throughout your life, right? First starting throughout your day, but our life is basically a subtotal of all the days that we put in, right? And our happiness is a result of how we're pouring into ourselves, right? And what we're doing on a daily basis. So you must take care of yourself. Slow it down. Take time to think, game plan, reflect prior to doing and reflect after, right? Prior and post of doing things, right? Understand what you're doing and just take time to take care of yourself, please. And when it comes to this, the main thing is you don't necessarily want to become overwhelmed with trying to implement so many new things all at once. The first thing I would suggest to anybody is to try to find things to cut out, right? Rather than trying to add so many new things, you just want to cut things out, right? So you can look at your life and be like, okay, what are some things that I do that are unhealthy? Or what are some bad habits that I tend to repeat, right? What are some patterns in my life that maybe don't serve a purpose at this point in time in my life? It could be people, it could be conversations, it could be routines, right? Cutting certain things off, watching certain shows, watching certain movies, watching porn, smoking so much weed, drinking so much, drinking in the daytime, right? Sleeping in the daytime, right? Like, it's so many different things that we may do that may have an effect on us, right? How much we're consuming, what we're consuming, how much we're eating, how much we're gossiping, talking about this, talking about that. The things that we're doing on a daily basis, are these things productive? Are these things helping us to get to where we need to go? Are we working towards the things that we say we want to accomplish in life on a daily basis? If we're not working towards them, what are we waiting for, right? You must ask yourself these things. It's never too late to start over. It's never too late to implement new things. But the main thing we want to do is cut things out, right? And this is the whole analogy and concept behind it. So, my first job I ever had was landscaping. And the one thing I love about landscaping the most is gardening, right? I love flowers. I love plants. I love what they represent. I love what they do to our bodies. I love how they affect us. I love the visual behind it. But the concept behind flowers is that with a garden, you may have some weeds, right? Weeds are dangerous for the flowers. They're dangerous for your plants. So you want to take them out. But when you take them out, you want to make sure you get deep in there and get to the root. Because if you only snatch it out from halfway or 3/4 of the way and the root is still there, no matter how much it appears to be going, it's going to end up going back and end up affecting the plants in a negative manner, the same way how it was prior. So you want to make sure you get deep in there and get to the root and pull it out, so that once the weeds are out, the garden can flourish and the plants and flowers can grow effectively, right? But with the weeds there, it's going to stunt the growth of the flowers. So that's the same concept with our lives, right? We have ourselves, right, who have the utmost potential, right? We have free will, and we have God-given abilities and gifts, right? But we have different habits and different things in our lives, right, that are holding us back. These are the weeds, right? It could be people, it could be habits, it could be routine, patterns, so may have you, right? We must cut these things out, cut these things off from the base, from the root, pull it out of our lives, get rid of it, and now we can begin to flourish and grow, right? So we must cut things off. It's not so much about planting new flowers, right, and watering new flowers, right? It's more so just about cutting the weeds out and everything will grow exponentially. And speaking of cutting things off, another thing we want to cut off is self-sabotaging. You know, and self-sabotaging goes hand in hand with this whole message, right? Because we're talking about being gentle with ourselves, right? Taking care of ourselves, right? And, you know, self-sabotaging, like I said in the beginning of this video, it really derives from things we were told about ourselves that was no good, right? People mistreating us, people having a lack of respect for us. These things weigh on us, right? Especially if we care about validation. We all care about validation to some extent, but some of us care about it more than others, right? Especially if we grew up in households where our parents didn't love us effectively, where our parents didn't really express their love in a proper manner, saying I love you, or telling us that they're proud of us, and always making us feel like we have to do the next thing and do the next thing, or making us feel like we weren't in love properly if we didn't do good with something, showing us conditional love at times, right? So we begin to self-sabotage and mistreat ourselves because we were once mistreated, or we're continuously mistreated on a daily basis, right? So we want to cut off the self-sabotage. How do we cut it out? First, we must identify it. We must acknowledge it, right? We must acknowledge it. Acknowledge in ways that you may mistreat yourself, right? Because sometimes, like for example, we may talk to ourselves in a way or treat ourselves in a way that we wouldn't want other people talking to us in a manner, right? So how comes we get to talk to ourselves a certain way that other people don't get to, right? We may be really hard on ourselves in certain scenarios when we really shouldn't, right? We really shouldn't. Think about like a baby, for example. You want to be very gentle with a baby, right? You want to feed the baby a little bit at a time, right? Here you go, baby. Here you go, right? Feed the baby little by little. You don't want to just stuff food in the baby's mouth, like, eat it, chew the food, Like, no, that's child abuse, and you're going to jail. You're going to jail. You see what I'm saying? You better not have me catch you feed the baby like that, boy. Smack you up and down this hallway, boy. You crazy, right? So the same way you would feed a baby and be very gentle with it, same way you would hold a baby and be very gentle. Hello, baby. Hello. You can see I got a little baby fever. I don't got no kids. You know what I'm saying? 32 with no kids is getting wicked up there. Damn, boy. You know what I'm saying? Pull out game 2 bitches. Woo! Woo! Like Ric Flair. Woo! Woo! You know what I'm saying? Pull out game 2 crazy out there, boy. Sheesh. You see, I got a little baby fever. Yeah. But you know what I'm saying? You want to be gentle with the baby. Hey, baby. Hello, baby. The same way you'll be gentle with a baby, right? Be gentle with yourself in that same manner, right? You want to be very gentle with yourself, right? And I ain't trying to create and recreate for people to be OD sensitive out here and not be able to handle anything, you know what I'm saying? We still grown at the end of the day, but we are still children that were forced to mature because of age, because of society, because of life, right? But maintain your childlike spirit and childlike joy, and view yourself as the child within, because you are still him and her, right? Make sure you are gentle with yourself, take care of yourself, appreciate yourself, celebrate the small wins, right? Cut off the bad habits and bad patterns and bad characteristics of people, right? Because people have bad characteristics. So when you notice people have bad characteristics, you want to cut those people off. They may not be bad people altogether, but they're just no good for your growth, right? So we just want to cut things off little by little, and your life will start to come together. The pieces of the puzzle will start to fit, and everything will flourish and blossom. That's all for today, folks. You have a blessed day.
But it start with yourself, that's called self-love. But it start with yourself, that's called self-love. It's called self-love.